This is James Dutton for Round 8 Boxing. Delighted to join with Mr. Jamie Moore. Jamie, how are you, mate?
I'm all good, yeah, you?
Yeah, very good, thank you, mate. We're here today, match in the community. It's a week out from Jack Catterall's fight against Harlem Eubank. Let's talk about Jack first of all. It's not an easy fight to jump straight back in against Harlem Eubank. What was the thinking behind taking Eubank as an opponent?
Listen, I think I've said this a few times in the lead up to Jack's last few fights. You know, he's at that stage in his career now where, you know, fights at a lesser level are not going to do him any favours. You know, if he wins, he's not really going to get anything out of it, and he needs sort of a tough opponent in the opposite corner to bring out the best in him. Eubank's, you know, around about the same age as Jack, so it's not like he's fighting a young, hungry, up-and-coming kid who's unbeaten. You know, he's someone who's at the same sort of age and development, except he hasn't sort of been to the heights what Jack has, and you know, doesn't mean that he can't, doesn't mean that he won't. It just means that he hasn't been there, and we recognise that it's not an easy fight, but it's definitely the type of fight what Jack needs at this stage of his career to bring the best out of him.
A lot of people might say this is high risk, low rewards for Jack in this fight. Do you agree with that?
I think there's a lot. It's very difficult to get the right type of opponent at this stage of Jack's career, which has got the sort of a positive balance in that sense. You know, the only type of opponent you would look at is someone who is maybe ranked above him, and they're then going to be in that position where they've got to take the sort of lower end of the risk, higher end of the risk and lower reward. So it's not an easy balance to get, but I suppose, you know, Jack putting in a good performance against an opponent who many people will think will give him a tough test, will stand him in good stead afterwards and put him in a better position to be fighting for the world title.
Absolutely. On the undercard, Akib Fiaz obviously had a pull-out with Gomez Jr. It's now Alex Murphy. Disappointed?
Well, I know Akib was looking forward to the fight, and obviously I sort of had a feeling, you know, Gomez at this stage of his career now, the hunger might not be there like it used to be, and it was always going to be a difficult fight for him against Akib. So, you know, these things happen in boxing. You've just got to take it with a pinch of salt. And Alex Murphy's, again, it's a more than credible last minute opponent. In many ways, it might be more of a difficult fight than Gomez was. So that remains to be seen. But I know one thing: Akib Fiaz is absolutely flying at the minute. He's really in good form, and you know, I feel like a lot of the time, setbacks put you in a position where they make you look at yourself. So you reflect on it, and you learn a lot of things from losing, way more than you ever do winning. And I feel like Akib's definitely got the most benefit out of that loss, and it's going to make him a better fighter in the long run.
How do you as a coach adjust on, you know, a week's notice tops for a change of opponent?
I feel like, not just from a coaching point of view, but the actual fighter himself is very difficult. I feel like Akib's a very diverse fighter. You know, he can really box on the back foot, he can really fight on the front foot, and I feel like he's going to have to do a bit of both against Alex Murphy to come out on top, and he's more than capable of doing that.
Alfie Middlemiss also on the undercard. Yeah. Pleased with his progress so far?
Definitely. Very similar in terms of his flexibility to Akib, in terms of he can box really well on the back foot. He's really effective coming forward. Not really had a chance to see that yet because he's only had 2 fights, but you know, hopefully this opponent on Saturday will bring that the best out of him.
And talking about Pat Brown, obviously just off a recent win, straight back in again. Yeah. Good to keep him busy.
Definitely. Yeah, active fights are always way better, especially at this stage of the career where you're not really going into a training camp. You're just, you know, consistently fit. He's a throwback type of fighter where he'll just fight, you know, as and when anyone asks him to do that. So I'm more than happy with his progress so far. I think anyone who watches him can see he's just a spiteful, bad man. You know, he loves fighting, he loves hurting people, but he's the nicest kid you'll ever meet outside of the ring. So perfect blend, really.
Talked about the pressures put on Pat. A lot of people feel like he is the next big British star in the face of British boxing. How will he deal with the pressure?
I feel like he's got the type of temperament which is probably the best to deal with it, where he doesn't sort of hold himself in that high esteem like everybody else does. You know, our job as a team is probably going to be as time goes on, we make sure that he's still aware of who he is, where he is, keep his feet on the ground, don't let him get too carried away with himself, because people will start saying things about him, outlandish things, you know, which maybe sometimes takes people, you know, above or you know the real perception of where they are in reality. So our job is to keep his feet on the ground, but I'm you know, under no illusions that he's one of the best, if not the best, prospects in the country, and we just need to make sure that we do right by him in navigating properly, so that he's not rushed, but he's also not held back long enough where he doesn't improve, because if you keep him at a certain level, he isn't going to learn anything. You know, we have to make sure we get the balance right in matchmaking and make sure that we're progressing at the right time. But he's 26 years old. There's no way he's going to be hanging around. You know, within 12 months, I can see him being involved in some decent fights.
And once I've got you, I've got to ask about Dave Allen. Obviously, a lot of talk about Joseph Parker. It was Deontay Wilder before that. Any update on that at all? Has there been talk start with Parker's team?
No, I've not heard anything. I'm a Dave Allen man. I love the guy to bits. He's a top guy, and it's been a pleasure to work with him so far. I just hope for him and his family that he gets the rewards he deserves from way back when he didn't get them earlier in his career. And I'm just glad that he's persevered. He's had a few little sort of retirements and came back and tried. Didn't work out for him. Eventually, that perseverance has paid off. He's dedicated himself properly, as he should have years ago, and now it's all paying dividends for him, and I'm over the moon for him.
Is Joseph Parker the right fight for Dave Allen, not just financially?
If in a perfect ideal world, I would like 2 or 3 fights with Dave again. Now he's found that consistency and that dedication to the sport. You know, nobody knows how good Dave Allen can be, because he's never applied himself the way he should apply himself, but now he is. In an ideal world, I would like 2 or 3 fights just to build on that consistency, but the opportunity might never come again. You know, it's literally a Rocky Balboa story where you get through an opportunity of a lifetime. And why do you turn that down? How do you turn that down at 32 years old when you're in the form of your career? You know, nothing's perfect. He'd be an absolute idiot to turn it down. Would I like another fight or 2 with him? Absolutely. But beggars can't be choosers, and if he gets the opportunity, then he can't turn it down.
So, Jamie, thank you for your time. Always a pleasure.